We're back. It's Sunday night. It's the red, white, and blue football discussion with more than a lot to discuss tonight. I tell you what, I'm still on my IOs from yesterday as an Evertonian. I'm sure these two are still on the lash from earlier on today because their team have run the first trophy of the season. So a big welcome, Charlie, and to Stephen. There we go. That could. There you go.
Santa brought us a present today.
Hey, cool.
I missed the POs. Yeah, let me put it in.
Oh, dear.
Oh, God. Go on, let's stick with your name there, John Barsicle, because that was a disgrace that yesterday. As a Liverpool fan, I wanted Everton to get the point there. That was just a
I don't know. It's do you know, I hate to start. There's so much happened this weekend. I hate to start by whinging, but I will, because actually, if that incident had happened to any other team in any other football grounds with any other Chris Kavanagh in the whole world. I don't know if you guys watched the boxing last night. The boxing was the biggest rigged event I've ever seen in boxing for a number of years. It was as if Chris Kavanagh was on the boxing judges as well. It was so poor. It was diabolical. Even Rodri knew he'd handled the ball. You know, if you have that look, you know when you've had kids, you always know when your kids are lying. You have that look on your face. Rodri knew he'd handled the ball. Right, he just had that look. He was guilty as charged. And how on earth they didn't get Tierney didn't even go across to even look at it on the screen to make a decision for himself and relied on somebody who's, as it transpires, according to the world of Twitter, because it must be true, whose family are Man City season ticket holders. He decided, nah. It was in the red zone. It was just above his sleeve. He was fine. Absolute rubbish. It was the biggest Stonewall penalty I've ever seen in my life. And thankfully, I think the whole world has actually looked at it. And I would turn around and actually say, because I know my kids were in a way were a little bit skeptical about how calm Frank Lampard remained. In his actual sort of touchline sort of demeanour at the time when it was all going pear-shaped, and I give Ashley Cole his due because he came and gave the referee what for after the game, but some of the terminology that was actually used in the press conference afterwards was rather intriguing, because like Lampard had come out and said was his 3-year-old knows that Everton should have had a penalty. And I thought that's fair enough. But he actually went and said things that actually pushed it much, much further. I'm not one for sort of saying that it's cheating or anything like that there's corruption involved. But we lost a point because a professional who can't do his job right, it is so incompetent to get it wrong. It said Lampard. It was the clearest penalty he could give. The arm is out. Great. Below the sleeve. Great. I was waiting for the penalty. I'll wait for a statement or apology when they do things are wrong, but it'll mean nothing. And to be really honest with you, it summed up this season. They've taken a system that is reliable in every other country, and they make such it's just a diabolical decision. And if anyone follows me on Twitter, I do apologize. I spent a long time last night just liking and retweeting so many sort of trusted football pundits, because actually, there's been a groundswell of sympathy towards Everton, because actually they were unlucky to lose the goal when they did, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter about a title or anything like that. When you're trying your best to stay up and trying to get Everton actually played really well yesterday. And I was more delighted. I would have been, if you'd have got a point, I'd been absolutely thrilled because actually they deserved the point. They played exceptionally well. They had a plan. To a man, each player actually worked the backside off. And I can't criticize any team, irrespective of win, lose or draw. You can't criticize your team if they've worked the backsides off, and Everton did. And I think to have the chance, because I'm not saying we would have scored the penalty because we're exceptionally bad at converting penalties, but to have had that chance taken away from us, I thought was absolutely, it was disgusting. It really was. It was just, it's laughable because.
Sorry, John. Go.
No, you go.
Yeah, I was just going to say, what do you think of the shouts coming from the City fans that he was offside in the build up to it?
He wasn't, no, and that's the interesting bit because actually, a lot of people have sort of caved in on the fact, Richarlison was offside, and he wasn't offside. The offside was given after the handball incident, and when you watch it through, primarily, the referee, the VAR, Chris Kavanagh, didn't even go to look at the offside. He was, and obviously deemed the fact that it wasn't offside because he's like, he can draw wonky lines like anybody. But they made such a mess of the handball decision and such a blatant one and such an easy one to get right. To have chucked the offside into the mix and actually come back and said, "Oh yeah, he was offside." To me, that would have been a really easy get out for them. But the officials after the match had said no, that there was no offside in that because that was one of the things that Lampard went and sought clarification after the game as to whether or not that had been in the VAR check, and it hadn't. That hadn't come into it whatsoever. And I think I know a lot of people on Twitter, City fans in particular, were making that quite clear. He was offside. Well, actually, he wasn't, and it wasn't even checked. It wasn't that didn't come into the mix at all.
It was definitely an handball. I don't know how they can't say it's not an handball. And this sleeve malarkey they brought in this season, that's just to paper over the cracks of what offsides they've given over the last few years. That because they're measuring from here. Yeah. So that's what they're saying, So for me, I was gutted as a Liverpool fan because I thought Everton played well. I thought you deserved the draw. I was looking at that team and I was like, I was going to actually message you say, go and pick an Everton man of the match from yesterday because
dead easy. Donny van de Beek was absolutely incredible.
I thought it was
absolutely amazing. And what you found is when we were caught out by City breaking very quickly on the counter-attack, Van de Beek ended up playing as an extra centre-half and breaking down a lot of City's play. He was absolutely exceptional. We didn't look the same team after he went off after 70 minutes because he was injured. I did feel for us a little bit. I thought we were a little bit more vulnerable once he'd gone off. But he's the real deal. I've got to admit, and if you're a Man United fan, you must be looking at him and thinking, why have you let him go out on loan? He would do a job for United. He's a pivotal player within any team. He's more mobile than I think McTominay and Fred. I think he would do a cracking job for United. But I love him in a blue shirt, I tell you, because he was him, Alan and Decore across the middle of the park were absolutely superb. And I as much as I'm Richarlison's biggest critic at times because I think he spends a lot of his time on his backside. He put a shift in yesterday and actually understood a lot of the job that he had to do was basically holding the ball up and allowing the midfield to come and join him at times. He was brilliant, and also the much maligned Jordan Pickford was superb, and he has been superb for Everton for a long time. I won't talk about Michael Keane, just one of them ones, and he's just got a mistake in him every single game, as unfortunately as a few Everton defenders have. But no, Van de Beek was brilliant. Van de Beek was amazing. Can I also say as well, and I know this sort of takes us a little bit away from the footballing side, but there was a most amazing moment before the game. Now we've got a lad Mikhailenko who's just signed for us. but I also know City have got Zinchenko, who are both Ukrainian, and Zinchenko in particular was in tears before the game started. But the way that both teams came out with the support of the Ukraine and the support of there being no war, and their embraces to basically two Ukrainian brothers was quite something, and really transcended an awful lot of that sort of football part of it. And actually, you begin to realise that there's two lads there. They don't know if their family home is going to be there anytime soon, and it really just it brings it sort of quite home. Zinchenko was very, very vocal on, I think it was Thursday night, in his condemnation of the outbreak of war, and I think as well. I don't know moving forward, I think he'd always be looking over his shoulder as to who's going to come and have a dig at him for some of the things that he actually said. But I think we're all sort of in support of these lads, and for them to be so far away from home at times such as this must be very difficult. But to see the reaction of every single Premier League club, in the way that they've actually supported the Ukraine, I would say that Chelsea haven't, but that's for the reasons only to be known to Chelsea because of their owner. But that was a real poignant moment yesterday, and as you sat down about to watch a game, and I'm not one to watch Everton when they're on the telly, because actually I was expecting them to get absolutely thrashed yesterday, but it kind of drew me in from that very moment, and watching the Everton players running out with the Ukrainian flags around them. It was, I stuck with it. It was.
Very emotional. Everton turned it on now. And you mentioned 3 players across the midfield, but I was impressed with Iwobi as well. I was thinking, when's this guy going to stop running? Because he covered, I think, he was up and down that right side, up and down, all the way through the 90 minutes. I thought he's going to get tired in a minute. He's going to get tired, and I thought Everton to the man were brilliant right until Keane did that. And it should have been a point. He should have had the chance to bring it back to level. As far as I'm concerned, but referees need to go back and have a look at what decisions they're making and what's influencing them, because how you can look at that and say it's not clear and obvious that it's hit his arm is beyond me. Because everybody around the world can see it was, a clear and obvious mistake.
There has to be some type of accountability, even if it's after the fact. Do they suspend this guy? Do they? I don't know, give him a slap on the wrist or whatever. But I was glad to see Everton bring it too. They usually only bring it against us, and I was glad to see them giving. I mean, what they held out for 82 minutes, right? I was pulling for him, for obvious reasons. But the outcome of that game affected basically 4 teams.
Yeah, absolutely, Charlie. I think as well. What was really telling was it wasn't setting aside the Liverpool element of it at the top of the league, setting aside the rivalry that United and City fans have. What really took me was the reaction from basically every single person who'd watched that and felt it was so ridiculously poor as a decision, and shared it. Either shared it online through different medium, but also the pundits on the telly, and quite often they play it safe on the TV, and they won't come out and say, "Oh, maybe he thought this." I can't think of one that watched that either on TV, radio, or anything like that. They were all to a person. Just it should have been a penalty, and Everton were basically robbed of. A lot of people say they were robbed of an equaliser. I still have my doubts that they would have scored the penalty, but that's just me being a typical sort of glass half empty Evertonian. But
they just start looking into the finances of this guy, see if he's been getting greased palms.
Well, I tell you what, Frank Lampard alluded a little bit to that, and I think he pushed it a little bit. He didn't mention names, but he did mention the fact that that there is must be some form of corruption involved. If you can't see that that's a penalty, then you've got to be you've got to be doing something. So, and I don't know. It's just nice. It's nice to see a manager come out and actually just tell it how it is, because actually they come out and they say, they have a whinge and stuff like that. It's, it's.
And with the background of how long Everton managers last in the first place, now he's going to be on the block pretty soon if they keep on up this. And this is a match that could have been a draw instead of a loss.
Yeah, exactly, and I think particularly where we're precariously positioned at 17th, and I actually, I don't think that there's, at the end of the season that could be the difference between us staying up or going down, and I know that sounds really sort of quite brutally honest, but I think it could come back to that.
I think where you are with Burnley, I think Burnley could take you over you. However, you've got to look. I don't think it's the teams below you that are going to save you. I think it's the two teams above you.
Yeah. Oh, no, I totally agree, Stephen. Just before we move on to that, I've just found the exact quote from Lampard. I didn't want to misquote him, right? So, even if VAR says not sure, then go and have a look. It is incompetence at best. If not, then someone needs to explain what it is. And that was the end of his little snippet of his press conference. And I didn't want to misquote him because he actually, I would hate for someone to sort of come back to me and say, oh, well, he didn't say somebody was getting grease palms and stuff like that. But read into that exactly what you want.
Yeah.
And someone needs to explain what it is if it's not incompetence at best. And I think that was quite eloquently put by Lampard. And I'll leave it at that. But let's see what happens to these officials, because something needs doing. You were right, Charlie. They need to be taken off next week's games. Then some form of sanctions need to be done for them.
Definitely. But what gets me as well is VAR was brought in to stop these decisions, because you think of the game it was involving it.
Yeah.
You got on one side of the pitch, you've got a team fighting for the title. On the other side, you've got a team fighting for their lives. It's exactly them kind of games that VAR was brought in to stop these kind of mistakes happening. Do you know? Yeah. So if you went down fairly and squarely, not because the poor decisions you received, and you won the title because of your fair and squarely, not because of all the great decisions that went your way. So for me, I couldn't believe. Look, son, it's Kepa's penalty.
I'll tell you what, I was gonna start with an apology for anyone who normally waits for us at 9 o'clock on the dot. We were all a bit late. We were all busy down Wembley Way, sort of trying to get the ball back. It was that far over. It was that far over the bar. I think it was down the old Kent Road in London. It was that far over Wembley Stadium.
I think if you look up the sky tomorrow night, you see the International Space Station go by, and get the penalty of you behind.
Oh, brilliant! I'll tell you what, lads. I think we were just about to touch upon Leeds, and I think it's probably, instead of me whinging about Everton for an hour, can I just say I was gutted this morning. Bielsa's been put out of his misery at Leeds, for right or for wrong. And I know we've sort of I just love the way that Leeds have played football for the past 3 years. I live in Yorkshire. I can see what he's done to a football club that was going nowhere. He's brought belief back to any Leeds fan. There's people now own up to being Leeds fans once again. But some of the reaction of some of the players today has been something else. I've got a quote here from Patrick Bamford, right? So he came out, thanks to the man who changed everything for everyone. And I'm thinking, whoa, tell you what, it's got to be sort of big shoes to fill there, isn't it? And then also Calvin Phillips, and I took a screenshot on my phone, so just bear with me, because his words were quite exceptional. There you go. Thank you, Marcelo, for everything you've done for me. You saw in me what I didn't even see in myself. You helped me grow as a player, but most importantly as a person. Wishing you all the best in your next chapter. Gracias, Marcelo. And I'm thinking, flipping heck, Tell you what, that's a dressing room I wouldn't like to be walking into tomorrow morning. I tell you, because he's molded that club, and I still feel I still wonder, should they maybe have just brought in maybe somebody to work alongside him and moved him maybe in the director of football. I don't know, but it's harsh, brutally harsh, and
it's definitely harsh.
Well, I heard something on 606, which is the football phone in on the 5 Live over here, Charlie, on the way back.
Mm-hmm.
So I obviously I watched the right up to the end of the first half of extra time of the cup final and that to set off. And I listened to the second half, and then you had the chat going on. They had the caller in, and they only had half an hour because the big news was coming on. And they had a call come in from a guy, and it sounded like he was someone who knows people within the club of Leeds United, because Chris Sutton was talking to him like he knew him, and so was Robbie Savage. So he comes on and he goes, well, the players were introduced to the new manager on Friday, and he didn't name the fella, and apparently he's from America, right?
Yeah.
Now it's not Ted Lasso. But apparently there's a name.
He's at United now, right?
yeah, it'd be great, wouldn't it? Now, I don't know how true it is, because obviously I'm just listening to a chat show, and I don't know whether I've got the full details right, because I was driving and concentrating on the road as you do.
No, it is. It's right. Yeah, is it Jesse Marsh?
Yeah, it's the one, Jesse Marsh.
And he was formerly he was at RB Leipzig earlier in the season. Really interesting, because his actual record at Leipzig has been exceptionally poor. Hence the reason he was let go there.
But isn't he an American consortium at Leeds or something like that?
Yeah, and also, but he's been at New York Red Bulls.
That smells a little bit, doesn't it? You know,
it does. Yeah, it does. Yeah.
A lot of the Leeds fans were coming on and they were saying they were gutted, because, you know, you think about that club, right? That club was doing brilliant at the turn of the century, you know, with Viduka, Harry Kewell, all that kind of players. Then you got relegated in, I think, what was it, 2004? I think it was 2003, 2004 season. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was that season that they got relegated on. Then they just went into a bit of a free fall. And I think they went down to League One, which is the third tier of English football in, I think it was either 2006 and 2007 or 2007, 2008 season. I can't remember which one it was. So they went all the way down there as short back as 14 years ago. Do you know what I mean? And I think they spent, 2-3 seasons in League One before they got back up to the Championship. It might have been 2. I can't remember if it was 2 or 3. But then they languished in the Championship. And when I say languished, they were up and down the table, weren't they? They weren't really going anywhere until Bielsa took over, and then he's took them back into the club, got their identity back, playing really good football. I put a tweet on for this channel on Leeds' official Twitter account, and I said, you know, Rafa, something along the lines, has he been sacked because of the same stubbornness that we got Rafa the sack and all that? Because he just wouldn't change his tactics. He just kept persevering with what he was doing rather than going back to basics. Maybe that's what the fall down was of him. But for me, when you've got the backing of so many fans and the players, you are a brave chairman or an owner to do what they've done today.
Yeah.
Because, like, what you look at the run of games now, I haven't got them up on the screen, but I'm pretty sure they've got a better run of games now than they've had
than many other teams. Yeah, I'd agree with you.
You know.
Yeah, I'm more intrigued, because actually the groundswell of opinion from Leeds fans is they would much rather Leeds go down, playing the style of football that they're playing, than stay up and watch a new manager come in who's just going to park the bus and just go through that turgid non-football sort of bit that Leeds fans have had a bit of that in the past, where, you know, we're difficult to beat, but it's not entertaining to watch. And I think Leeds fans would much rather see attacking football and actually understand the fact that, they've been really badly done by, like, was it 3 injuries in it? Calvin Phillips, Bamford, and then I can't remember the lady who plays centre half, Liam Cooper, and those three injuries have been absolutely crucial. It's the spine of the team that they've been playing without, and I actually feel that, even if they had gone down, to go down and to build back again with Bielsa, I think is probably a better position to be in than going down and then having that sort of Tony Pulis style football thrust upon you, because you're then difficult to beat, and you then, I don't know. It's been such a dream for Leeds fans, and I think there's, like I said, I think it'll be that dressing room in the morning will be a very difficult one for anyone to walk into.
It's just very knee-jerk, isn't it? It's like the typical owners, the knee-jerk, and they need to stay in the Premier League. But when they don't, what they'll realise is they'll get a parachute. If they go down, they get a parachute payment. You know.
Yeah, but I think the thing is, I think a lot of these teams now, Stephen, are now looking at the fact that they need to do something rather than just take the parachute payment and then see, oh well, we might bounce back again. They want that guaranteed 40 million minimum. So even if you get relegated, you've got 40 million coming into your club, rather than I think the parachute's about between 15 and 20 million. You know, there's a lot of them probably mortgaged to the hilt, Everton included. Everton go down, that parachute payment will not cover. It probably won't cover Bill Kenwright's lunch bills.
Right. I think
I know, but I'm gonna keep on the negative bit until I know we're gonna be safe. And particularly the run that Burnley are on. Burnley have done very, very well in the past 2 weeks. Burnley have come and they've shown that they probably. I think Sean Dyche said he felt quite disappointed they hadn't taken the points at Liverpool.
Yeah.
But they've really turned themselves around from probably where they were. Was it New Year's Day? Definitely New Year's Day, 2nd of January. They got beat at Leeds. They then drew away at Arsenal, drew at Palace. They've won against Tottenham, won away at Brighton, which was unexpected. Okay, got beat off Liverpool, but then they drew with Man United and drew with Watford. That they're proving once again that they're not going to concede goals, which is a big Sean Dyche thing. It's.
But Burnley are set up for that, aren't they?
Totally.
Say we won there, John. But even when we went there, I was thinking this is going to be a really tough game, and I think it was a tough game.
Yeah.
Something like 1-0 or something like that. We nicked it in the end. But Burnley are that type of team. They won't be scared of the position they're in because they're in it all the time, and that's just where Dyche knows what he's doing. Burnley won't do the knee-jerk reaction either, because they could have quite easily done the knee-jerk reaction because they were rooted to the bottom of the table with only 17 points. All right, they had the games in hand, but when you're down there, games in hands don't mean nothing really. It just means more games that you're going to lose possibly. But they've done well. They're getting the points, and I think they'll get out the bottom three in the next week or two. Like I say, I don't think it's the teams below Everton that's going to save Everton. I think it's the teams above them, Brentford and Leeds. I've got in mind.
Yeah,
really, I've got them in mind. Leeds they've had a poor run of games. They met us. We absolutely hammered them 6-0, and then they got beat by Tottenham 4-0. So they conceded 10 goals in 2 games and not had any reply.
Yeah. So
when you've done that and then you change your manager, so you got this new. Maybe I give them a new lease of life. I don't know, but I don't know anything about the new manager. I hadn't even heard of his name. I couldn't even tell you what his name now is. You just said what his name is. What it is. I don't know who he is. So I don't know what style of football he plays. I don't know if he's going to bring in like an attacking minded game, or he's going to be a more like you say, a Sam Allardyce or something like that. You know what I mean? I don't know.
I must admit, I was laughing on Twitter last night because Big Sam was trending, as always happens. There's a thought, there's another manager going to lose his job. Right, let's get Big Sam in. And like the amount of vitriol that was coming from Leeds fans was just, that's it. Big Sam's in. I'm never going back to Ellen Road again in my life.
Steve Bruce is available as well,
Oh, not anymore. He's at West Brom.
Is he? Has he gone?
He's swapped his black and white stripes at Newcastle for black and white stripes at West Brom, and taken them from taking them from sort of that position where West Brom fans were thinking, "Oh, we might have a chance of the playoffs." To let's just see if we get to the end of the season.
I don't know why anyone touches them two managers.
Yeah, I just got something up on here. Jesse Marsch, right? So Red Bull Leipzig, RB Leipzig. He'd lasted 4 months there after he took the job over from Julian Nagelsmann. He'd won 5 games out of 14. So I'm not being funny, but I wouldn't sell the job, sell the man to me if I was. I was thinking he was
again. Jesse what?
Marsch.
Jesse Marsch. Have you heard of him, Charlie?
Marsch, and he's worked in MLS, and then he went to, and he's also done.
Which team?
Yeah, but he's basically collected. He's maybe that's what it is. He's worked for New York Red Bulls, right? See if anyone can spot the link here, right? New York Red Bulls, and then went to Red Bull Salzburg.
Yeah.
Then went to RB Red Bull Leipzig.
Yeah.
So full set. Maybe he's like a collector of like merch and caps and t-shirts and shirts and stuff like that. He's gone for the full set. He's got a full Red Bull set, so now he's going to Leeds so he can have a white kit.
Unless Red Bull are about to buy Leeds out.
Do you know something that I'm even looking at that now, and you're thinking, "Hang on, this could be another little thing in the background of all of this." But who knows? That's maybe something for the stock market, isn't it?
Yeah, and Leeds will be more affordable if they go down, right?
Yeah. Well, that's the other one, isn't it, Charlie? Yeah. There you go. You heard it first here. So yeah. So if anyone goes and have a bet on that, please, we'll just take the 10%. You're all right. Can I also mention? I didn't even watch the Man United game yesterday because actually I can't bring myself to watch Man United at the minute. But interesting strategy by Mr. Was it Rangnick? Good old Ralph, right? So you're not playing very well. You've got a home game against one of the bottom 3. So what do? You drop all of your English players and you choose a starting 11 of all your continental players. Not one starting player in that first 11 yesterday. He got rid of Maguire, Shaw, Rashford. Were all dropped, and it was just a continental 11. Useless bit of information. Don't know why he did it, but just seemed a bit bizarre to me. It's just maybe they all speak French so that Pogba can just sort of understand what's going on.
It was 0-0, wasn't it?
It was dire, absolutely dire.
They're a bad team to watch. I don't know what's going on with United. United started the season off so well. They were actually playing some decent football, but now it's just absolutely awful. They got rid of Volley, and it's just gone downhill from there. Yeah. I don't think they would have been in any different a position if they kept hold of Solskjaer. Really don't. Has Ronaldo even hit one on target yet? Because it's just like he just keeps missing. It's quite hilarious because it's just like. Well, I was going to say it's quite hilarious, but I captained bloody Fernandes. Again, thinking, I captain. Yeah, did you? Yeah, thinking, playing bottom of the table. Watford. There you go. Bound to happen. Bound to get loads of points for that. No, I had a free hit. Snuffed out on that one.
I didn't even use my free hit this week, and I lost 3 players on.
Yeah.
I was like, I watched what Steve did. He did his free hit. He put all.
I did, yeah. I should have put Kane as captain.
I should have put Kane as captain as well.
Yeah, no, good enough.
11 points. I'm thinking, I'm put Bruno Fernandes as captain. He got me 6 points, even with his captain's double points. Oh, yeah, that's great. Absolutely brilliant. No, United are absolutely awful to watch. I can't watch them myself. You know, the only time I ever watch United anyway is to see them if they get beat. But they're absolutely awful. I can't even watch them for that.
But the other one as well, and this is again something that just they keep flying under the radar. I know, and this is hilarious because if they have a couple of games where they're inconsistent, all the Arsenal fans go, Arteta out, and all that. Actually, Arsenal are probably the team that are best set in that top 8 at the minute. They're on 45 points, which is only 2 behind Man United that are in fourth position. They played 3 games less than Man United. So if they only draw those 3 games, they're still above United.
Well, I hope they draw 2. You can get beat at the other one because it's Liverpool. They can win the other 2. But we're going to be.
But to be honest with you guys, though, nobody's taken Arsenal seriously enough because they are truly in that. They're in that complete transitional sort of phase as a club. Yeah. You know, they've got rid of all them big earners, the Ozils and the Aubameyangs, off the wage bill. They've got some amazing young players coming through, all which seem to be interchangeable. That Nketiah, Smith Rowe, Saka, all playing the same role.
Saka's brilliant.
And yet they don't. They'll rest one of them. Usually the one that's in my fantasy team.
Yeah, that's
just to annoy me. But it's really just not on anyone's radar at all. And maybe I'll put a curse on them. That might be the best way forward for it. But I think Arteta's done a really dirty job there at Arsenal.
He's done a good job, John. He's done
very much so, but a job I don't think people will give him credit for until probably another 5 years down the line. Yeah.
United, they have 3 games in hand against them. Wow.
Yeah.
You do. I think he's done a good job. I mean, we were talking about, is he going to be able to get at the start of the season because the results wasn't going for him, but he seems to have found a way to get this Arsenal team to play.
Yeah.
I mean, the players you just mentioned there, the one I'm really liking at the minute is Saka. He's just he's one of a player. I tell you what, if Liverpool went in for him in the summer and he's the only player that we bought, I'd be quite happy as a Liverpool fan. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I know that's probably going to annoy your Arsenal fans, but honestly, he is one hell of a player. He needs to be playing in the top tier of football. And to be honest with you, I had Tottenham as my favourites to get top 4. I think Arsenal are probably pipping them now. I think Arsenal are probably going to get that. We're getting to the time of the season as well, aren't we? We're getting to the crunch time of the season.
Yeah.
Then the roll, they're picking the numbers up. They get, they're in a bit of form. All right, they could go out and they'll lose a couple between now and the end of the season, but so will the teams around them.
The thing is, they don't look as inconsistent as Spurs. Spurs, you don't know what Spurs team's going to turn up from one game to the next. You look at the way they were last weekend, and I missed the show last week to celebrate Harry Kane. Harry Kane actually playing the first game he's played for months properly. He's been on the pitch. He's been on the pitch for once, but he turns up when he's meant to goes to City last weekend, and then they turn up. Spurs were brilliant, and then they go Burnley in midweek, and they were just anonymous. So, what Spurs team's going to turn up? It must be so frustrating. If you're a Spurs fan, it must be so annoying because there's undoubtedly some talent there, but I think was it Conte in midweek had come out with this whole press conference where he was questioning whether the manager was the right person to take the team forward, and I'm thinking, oh my word, that's quite bizarre. Really bizarre. And it maybe tells you a little bit of a story. There's something deeper rooted inside Spurs. It's
well, Nick's alluded to it, hasn't he? When Nick's on, it's not just the manager. It's right at the top. Levy down all the way through.
Yeah.
You can't say it's the manager now because Conte is classed as a world-class manager. That's just what he's deemed as, and he has done it at Chelsea and other places as well. So Spurs, yeah, if I was a Spurs fan, I'd be frustrated because I'd be thinking we've got a better team than Arsenal, but Arsenal look like they've got the better consistency. You know what I mean? So you got the likes of Son and Kane up front. You can score against anyone, and yeah, the inconsistency. Go and play against City, win 3-2 with a last gasp penalty at the end as well. Maybe that's why Everton didn't get the penalty yesterday, because you had to suffer at the end of the weekend. Not them twice in a row. You know what I mean? But yeah, if I was a Spurs fan, I'd be frustrated at the minute. Just that lack of consistently inconsistent.
Consistency comes down to players.
It does, Charlie. I think that's the thing, and I think people are looking at Harry Kane and like him and Son kind of blow kind of hot and cold, and it's not. If you're in a good side, you're expecting so much from the two of them, and I think Spurs across the back are really just they're probably missing a couple of really good players at the back to set it up. They're obviously, I don't know. I've not watched enough of them, but they look shorter at the back than they do midfield and up front. But
it's that play going from the back to the front. If they could speed that up a little bit and get the ball within like 2 or 3 passes. Football is not a difficult game to play. You pick the right 2 or 3 passes. You can get from your 18-yard box to the other team's 18-yard box in 2 or 3 passes.
Stephen, you should have said that to the team. I was watching the Scottish football this afternoon as well, because nothing better to do.
Who punished you? You've done wrong.
I'll tell you what, you need to tell them that football's an easy game to play, because after the ball pings off you 3 or 4 times and stuff like that, and you sort of, it's not first touch, it's 5th touch and stuff like that, and that's being polite. And I've got to say, you're looking at a team, and it wasn't just Celtic and Hibs. It sort of looked at Rangers. Rangers were winning at one point, and then decided they didn't fancy winning. They'd let Motherwell come back. It's just Scottish football is just so poor in comparison. And then thankfully there was a little window in the afternoon where the Premier League kind of allowed me to watch Wolves, because I've been really enjoying Wolves. And guess what?
They got beat.
I just thought, oh, that's just typical. It just sums it up. And then suddenly, West Ham are back into that mix for top 4. False hope, maybe. But again, it's just amazing that just the twists and turns of a Premier League weekend. And I know I want to go on and talk about the cup final, guys. So I won't labour this point very much. But I would also say Newcastle won again. And I know they were playing Brentford. I know it would just be, it's just one of them games that you just think, oh well, fine, fair enough. But actually,
games you have to win, John. Them games,
are the games. But they're now 14th. The team that we thought were nailed on to get relegated, with our good old Uncle Steve at the helm before Christmas, going nowhere. You suddenly find Eddie Howe's done a really good job there. They actually they're entertaining. They're not conceding goals, which is one thing. They actually look as if they're playing football for fun. I take my hat off to the lad, was it Ryan Fraser, who fell out with Eddie Howe at Bournemouth.
Yeah.
And went to Newcastle and didn't do an awful lot. He's really stood up and been counted. Newcastle are just different class altogether. And one of the things that he has done, and I was laughing earlier. A lot of Newcastle fans are now tweeting, and they're just basically, it's like a hands up. Sorry, I too thought that Joe Linton was rubbish. And he's not, and he's just been repositioned. He's been repositioned by Eddie Howe. He's now playing the centre of midfield beside John Joe Shelby rather than playing up front. Yeah. It's made such a difference to him. He looks like a new player. It's like having a brand new player in the team rather than having someone who's running around up front not knowing what he's doing. It's brilliant. It's lovely to see. And for as much as I've criticised Newcastle for such a long time on this show, primarily because they've been rubbish. Now they're through that, and you can actually see, just, it doesn't take much, does it? Just get yourself that bit of momentum and get yourself rolling up the table. It's nice to see. Really nice to see. So anyway, there was a cup final went on today, guys.
Just a little one.
Little one.
Yeah. There was quite a lot of penalties taken as well by the looks of it. Few offsides, which fair enough, VAR got right. But I know I'm going to leave you guys. You guys just have your moments. It's the Carabao Cup, first bit of silverware. Liverpool lift it. Jurgen looked as if he really enjoyed it. And I'm just going to say one thing before I hand over to you two. You can enjoy it as much as you like, but why do you sub your goalie in the last minute of extra time to bring on a goalkeeper who never touched the ball? He never even got anywhere near any of the penalties. And then
he's a penalty specialist. He's a penalty specialist.
Yeah, I don't know. You'd have you believe that?
Obviously not a penalty taking specialist.
he certainly wasn't that. He certainly wasn't that.
I didn't see the penalty shootout, but what a game!
I watched it. Stacey was there. She was hearing it all. I was like,
yeah. I
was actually listening to it in the car because I watched it right up to the end of the first half of extra time. I'm thinking I'm going to have to go, otherwise it'll be midnight by the time I get home.
Yeah.
So I just went, I'll go, right? Because it was a brilliant game.
I've got to admit, Stephen, there's nothing better, right? There's nothing better than being in the car listening to a penalty shootout. Because the commentary on the radio is just amazing.
For me, it was all right. For me, it was all right. It was the other road users it wasn't all right for. Because you're obviously trying to concentrate on the road and drive, because I'm not, I should never have been listening to it. So please don't try this yourself. But I was listening to it, and I'd be screaming, I'd be going like, "Go on!" And like the young Harvey Elliott's coming, I'd be banging away at the dashboard, saying, "Come on, Harvey! Come on, Harvey! Come on!" Give me some of that, and then I noticed my speed had dropped from like 70 down to 50. I'm in the middle lane. I thought I better go over it. And it just absolutely hard. It was horrible to listen to because I'm thinking it was 11-10. 11-10. I'm thinking when I'm listening to our players going up, I'm thinking, no, this is the one we're going to miss. This is the one we're going to miss. Yeah. Oh, God, it's Andy Robertson. What's Andy Robertson like? Oh, what's he been like today? I don't know. Scores. Then you're hearing, and I'm going, it got to our last outfield play, and I'm going, who the hell was left? Now I'm thinking of me, who's left on the pitch? I went, oh, no, what can I say? I went,
they did really well, though. I watched every single one. They did well. They were like pros out there.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I was so happy. I was so nervous before each one. I'm like, oh no, I don't know how this guy does. And I had a feeling Harvey was probably like, on the 23 and unders, he was probably the penalty taker or something like that, something like that. So I thought he had some experience. I wasn't worried too much about him, but I was worried about the defenders like Kanate and whatnot. I wasn't sure how they were going to do.
Even Keller had come up, stepped up, and I'm going to watch it later. I'm going to get
it in the upper left corner. He did a good job.
Yeah,
you'd be surprised because actually, as you watch it, even the look in his eyes was one. When you're thinking, I don't fancy him scoring this. Don't fancy him scoring this. He just looks. He looks as if he's going to have to change his undies after he's done this. And it was a brilliant penalty.
Do you know, it really was up to the age of 14, John. Honestly, he was a striker all the way up to the age of 14.
Well, there you go. That sums it up then, because he took it like a striker. He looked mightily relieved after he'd taken it, though. I must say, he was. There was an air of thankfulness afterwards, but I just felt for a long time in that penalty shootout, it was the quality of penalties was such that you start looking at goalkeepers, and there was part of me wondered if Liverpool had made the same substitution and brought Alisson on, would the outcome have been the same?
But I do have a conversation on that, John, because it's something that's the Chelsea fans were ringing up on the chat show about and really having
yeah.
And Sarah's saying that in his interview, he must have been on the TV. I can tell you his radio one was about the same. He's saying that Kepa's a better penalty stopper than Mendy.
Yeah.
He didn't own up to the fact it was a mistake. The man of the match, real strong contender for man of the match was Mendy.
Yeah.
He was absolutely outstanding today.
He saved some miracle things.
Right the way through. And if you're a goalkeeper and you've had 120 minutes of keeping, Liverpool at bay, making the saves you made, and you get stuck for the penalties they get, it's like, and I know why he done it, because he even said it in his radio interview. He said the reason he done it is because it was always an option. It was never on the table, but it was always an option. So hang on a minute, Mendy's just had the game of his life, and you're taking him off. So it was never set in stone that you're going to do it. He done it because in the Euro Super Cup, he done it in the Euro Super Cup where he took Mendy off right at the end and put him on to save the penalties, and he saved two.
Yeah,
it worked then, so he thought it was going to work this time. It was an absolutely disgraceful decision. I was actually listening to this on the radio when they were talking about it. The change might be coming, Kepa might be coming on, and I'm thinking to myself, well, Klopp better not do it with Kelleher, because the way I see it is Kelleher is now in the game. He's warmed up. His muscles are ready to pounce.
I think there is a total different mindset between Klopp and Tuchel, because Klopp was more of an honor guy. I think he was saying, no, this is his competition. To win or lose, it was his competition.
Yeah.
And I thought that's the right way to go. You got to give it. You can't just toss them aside whenever you want to win the big thing. You got to give them some hope of, give them some play too. They're players, they're human beings. You can't just be tossing them aside.
I agree with you, Charlie. And to be honest with you, I actually think Kelleher is a better keeper than Alisson anyway.
He was sharp. I thought he was sharp today too.
Controversial.
Yeah, it is controversial. It is, yeah. But I think he is. I think, what is he, 20, 22, 23 or something like that? He's only young, isn't he?
Well, Alisson's a head ball specialist now too, don't forget.
Hey?
He's a head ball specialist, Alisson.
Alisson, he scored that goal. I thought it was a real weird decision he made, and I think he messed up there. You've got Mendy, who's arguably probably one of the best goalkeepers in the world. And if you're saying he's a better penalty saver than Mendy, well, hang on a minute. Mendy's just played in the African Cup of Nations final, has he not, for Senegal? And didn't he save a penalty in that?
Yeah, I thought he had. I was having a discussion with the kids about it as well.
Yeah. So why? That is just one of them strange moments where you think, right, okay, you made the decision and that's your fault, manager. But it was apt. So if I'm Mendy, you want to win, but on a personal level, I'm sitting there thinking, well, that'll teach you, Tuchel, because now you just sent on a keeper, which when I was listening to them, I'm going to watch them after this show. When I was listening to them, half of them, he didn't even dive the right way. Yeah. He didn't go the right way. I think he got his hand on one out of the 11. I think he got his hand on the one, and then he just blasts his shot into the sky, So the irony is, he took one of the best players on the pitch and put on his substitute goalkeeper, and it was because of his substitute goalkeeper he lost the game.
Yeah, and I know people. If it had gone the other way, that's fine. But we're only talking. It was about 3-4 years ago when Kepa was playing in goal, and was it Mario Sarri was manager at Chelsea and was trying to hook him for a similar reason, because he thought that. And I'm trying to think of the lad who was going to come on. Bald-headed goalkeeper. Yes.
I've got him in my head because I've got him in my head because he's the one who was in goal against Liverpool at the cup final that I took my kids to, and he saved the bloody penalty.
Yeah.
I'll say Caballero or something like that.
That's it, Willie Caballero. That's the one. Used to play for Malaga, but Kepa refused to be taken off, and I have that memory of Sarri going through the doors at the back of the dugout at Wembley, and it was as if he was just walking out on the team and stuff. And that's how big an impact. And I wonder if that for Kepa, in some ways, it was that karma moment where it came back and bit him today for being so much up himself when Sarri was trying to make that decision. And then who knows what sort of grief he's been given, Tuchel. In the era, I'm better goalie. I'm better goalie at penalties. This and that. Might not be in the team. This, that, and the other. Who knows? But it was just, it was one of those little moments. And I've got to admit, we had a real laugh in our house because it took us back to, I think it was the playoff final of the to get into the Premier League, about 96, something like that. I think 1996, right? And it was extra time in the playoff final getting the Premier League. Leicester versus Crystal Palace, and Leicester took off their goalkeeper, who was an American goalkeeper whose name I can't remember, Casey Keller, and brought on Spider Zalek or something like that to actually say to take the penalty, to save the penalties. And lo and behold, Martin O'Neill had made the decision to make the substitution on like 118 minutes. And then Steve Claridge went up the other end of the park. They chased the keeper. Claridge went up the other end, scored the winner. Didn't even need to be part of that whole penalty shootout at all. And this poor lad had just come on, didn't even touch the ball. And they were then in the Premier League. And it was just, one of them moments, when you remember, just because it is strange, isn't it? Substituting your goalie. Because it's just like, I don't get it. And I think, Charlie, you nailed it there.
Who was it?
You keep his minds in the game.
David
and then
Moyes.
you got this.
David Moyes a couple of months ago, right?
Yeah.
Brought on, who was it? His penalty taker. Can't remember his name. What's his name? He brought him on right at the death to take a penalty. He hadn't kicked the ball.
Yeah, I know the one you're talking about. Yeah.
What was his name? What's his name? I've got his picture in me. I've got his face in me. I'll come back to me. But he done the same. He changed the player right at the end to take a penalty, and then Tuchel can't look at anyone else other than himself today about how he's lost that penalty shootout. Because to be honest with you, the game I watched, and then the 15 minutes I didn't get to see, I listened to on the radio. You couldn't literally say, right, that team deserved it more than the other one. I thought both teams give each other a hell of a game. I think it had everything other than like legitimate goals. There was a few offsides. But it had everything. It had great saves. Mendy's double save. I think it was in the first half, or I can't remember. It was first half, second half. It's all rolled into the one game now.
Yeah.
But that was a brilliant double save. You had there was times in the match where Chelsea had us under the cosh. There was times in the match where we had them under the cosh. So I was actually, and then the penalties went to like 10-10. And I'm thinking, it doesn't matter now. It really doesn't matter. Because you couldn't separate the two teams.
Who takes them after the keeper, the coaches?
It goes back to whoever took the finish one. And you just keep going until you find the winner.
They should bring out the coaches. That'd be so fun. Get Klopp and Tuchel.
The fans out the stadium. You on there, Roger. You come down here, lads. You get time.
Well, seat numbers. That'd be great.
Super. I love that. That's cool. Love that. What a great thought.
All 70,000 or 80,000 people have got to take a penalty. 79,000 to 69,999. Wow. But it literally, if you think about it, it literally could go that way. Could the penalties theoretically, you know what I mean? It's stupid, but you can just keep going, don't you, until you get the winner.
But I think as well, though, we're actually getting to the stage now. The quality of penalty taking is such, and is it? I don't know if it's quality of penalty taking, or is it the fact that some goalkeepers just don't know how to say penalties? But there's some of those penalties today that you'd never get anywhere near, and so if we keep going down the lines, some of the African Cup of Nations games went to like 8, 9, 10, 11 penalties as well. And you start to look at this and you're thinking, hang on, this is becoming a a much more. It happens much more now than it has done in the past. Yeah. It used to be a bit of a rarity when you went to 6 or 7 penalties, wasn't it? And you're now seeing teams that are just penalty after penalty after penalties, just back in the net, and you haven't got that sort of fear that your big centre half's going to turn up for the penalty, and you're thinking, oh no, here we go, because they just they've got this funny run up, and then the keeper's on the floor, and then they just troll it down the middle. So
I've got a fix for that dilemma, John, and the amount of time it's going longer and longer. I reckon FIFA should step in and say every team's training must be led by Gareth Southgate or Stuart Pearce on penalties. They will miss.
Oh dear.
That's the hour, lads. I can't believe it's been the hour already.
That's been dead quick. And I tell you what, next week Everton don't play till the Monday night, so we're all right. They're playing Spurs on Monday night, but we do have
postpone the show to the Monday night because I'd like to do it.
See what Nick's going to say.
The least in the glass.
I tell you what, we do have next weekend now. It's the Manchester Derby, 4:30 next Sunday.
City will win that.
Oh, I don't know.
They'll have another and the God moment, won't they? Do you know what I mean? It'll still be all right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think City's going to crush them 4-0.
Yeah. Do you think?
Yeah, I think City will beat them. Where is it? It's City's ground.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I found, again, they haven't played. They didn't play well against Everton, but Everton didn't allow them to play. Didn't play well against Tottenham, but Tottenham didn't allow them to play well.
Yeah.
But then they're going to go to United, and United are just going to. I don't know. They're just going to be crap, aren't they? You know what I mean?
I think game of next weekend, the one we all need to keep an eye out for is the little soft spot that everyone has for Brentford and Norwich. They play each other next Saturday at 3:00. So that to me could be the one that really throws up one of the shock results, because I can see Norwich winning that. So Sarah, hang on. Yeah, Sarah's getting. Yeah.
What's happened with the fantasy league this week?
I'm playing Joe Average this week.
Joe's all right.
Which is good because I played me free hit. What I would say, Stephen, that you and I played last weekend and you won, and I would. It needs mentioning because I had over 100 points last weekend.
Yeah,
and I thought, oh, here we go. I'm in with a shout, and you actually had more. I had 105. I think you had 118 or something like that.
No kidding. They all had.
Which was just incredible. It was crazy.
Absolutely crazy. And I looked at all you guys had 100. I was like, what the heck?
Yeah. It was quite staggering that last weekend. And I take my hat off to you, mate, because that was some scoring.
And did I beat Charlie this week? I don't know if I beat Charlie. If I beat you, Charlie, what's the score? Have I need the points.
I'll have a quick look.
I'm like Burnley. I'm rooted to the bottom of that scale.
Right now it's showing you have 46 and I have 31, but three of my guys are not having points this week, so they'll definitely win.
There's a comeback. There's a comeback on there. Sarah's joint top of the table. I love that. I think that's maybe what she's wanting us to say, innit?
I think that's what it is.
Sarah, well done. Well done from the bottom. If I was Nick Faldo said, from the heart of my bottom. Yeah, well done.
John, it's all right. I'll hijack a phone next week.
Oh dear.
On that note, I'd just like to say as well, on the note before we go, is the quadruple is still on.
Oh, see, it's only Liverpool fans that think of stuff like that. There's me trying to figure a way how we're going to stay up, and you're still thinking of the quadruple. There you go.
Anyway, thanks for joining us. Thanks for getting involved. It was a great show. See you later. See you next week.